Welcome back to Thriving with Autism. Today I am delivering part 5 in a 6-part series on the functions of behavior. To recap, functions are reasons why a behavior happens, and there are 5 functions of behavior represented by the acronym MEETS. Your child may be behaving for a medical reason like pain or hunger, a desire to escape, a desire for attention, a desire for a favorite tangible, or a sensory reason. And that's what we are ready to discuss today. S is for sensory, and this is behavior when there is a sensory overload. Your child is seeking to be regulated and becomes extremely uncomfortable extremely fast. Many children explode like a volcano erupting. Think of it almost as S is for safety from sensory, because what your child is seeking is some kind of regulation. And if that means a weighted blanket or noise-canceling headphones, then you do your best to calm your child down before the situation gets worse. So you may ask, how do I know if my child is having a sensory meltdown or suffering from sensory overload? Well, first we must identify how your child interprets sensory input. Even if your child has not been formally diagnosed with a sensory processing disorder, chances are likely that your child has some sensory needs, since it usually goes hand in hand with autism. Is your child much happier or calmer when laying under a bunch of blankets or pillows? Does he or she seek out hugs or rough play? How about swings or jumping on a trampoline? Does he or she enjoy the sensation of water beads, putty, or slime? How about loud music or kaleidoscopes? If you said yes to any of these, then your child is a sensory seeker. It depends on the sense, but your child feels more regulated when he or she can add sensory input to his or her body. Things that help with this are weighted blankets, swings, and sensory tables where your child can explore. Or is your child the opposite? Pulls away when someone tries to touch him or her, never wants a hug or holds his or her ears, prefers the lights to be off, or feels very shaky or scared to climb, spin, or swing, avoids different textures and may have trouble eating different foods. These types of children are the sensory avoiders. Too much sensory input becomes overwhelming and frightening, and when you know something becomes a sensory trigger, you can then try to avoid it in the future or help your child overcome his or her aversions. It may be a certain smell, too much noise in a crowded place, or even something as simple as the texture of a tag on an article of clothing. You learn this over time, but it is important to observe your child and how he or she reacts to certain stimuli. And if your child is the sensory seeker, he or she may have behaviors if there are not enough sensory inputs built into his or her day. You can set up a sensory diet that incorporates breaks built around movement or play with a sensory texture. When you know your child's sensory sensitivities, you can set up yours and his or her environment accordingly. This is more about harnessing the sensory input your child needs or needs to avoid. And that's it for today. Tune in tomorrow when we will bring it all together and talk about how to collect data, observe carefully, and figure out the reason your child is behaving out of the 5 possible reasons. Until then, I'm Kathy Flynn, and this is Thriving with Autism.